Hello, welcome back to another session. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at Corvettes and how useful Corvettes can be in the late game. I'm not worried about the early game so much. This is just going to be looking at the late game. And we did see a bit in the last video combining Corvettes with battleships and how effective they could be in screening battleships. And I did talk a little bit about how I like to use a number of Corvette fleets combined with my battleship fleets and cruiser fleets in the late game. And I just want to do a bit of demonstration here today just to show you how effective Corvette fleets can be just by themselves. Also, the Corvettes are just so fast as well and they're high evasion. So we've just got our Disruptor Corvettes here with some, this has got flak. We've got two types. We've got a flak Corvette and we've got a PD Corvette somewhere. Here we go. And point defense. So point defense is good at chewing down a little bit of armor, and the flak's good at chewing down a bit of the shields. Same armor, shields, afterburners, swarm combat computers. So pretty standard stuff here. First up, we've got our artillery battleships, which obviously optimized for larger targets. This is just a demonstration to show you how the Corvettes can get in close and can do a fair bit of damage. So these guys are designed to stay at range and pound away on enemy bigger ships. So using small fleets against larger ships is very effective, even if you're not using torpedoes. So let's dive in and see how this battle unfolds.
Engaging enemy fleet.
Alright, so their Alpha Strike's gone off, only killed 2 Corvettes. That's just the evasion playing into there. Artillery's firing. And now there's a good thing here to keep in mind as well. The artillery has a minimum firing range of 45. So once the Corvette's close to close distance, they really don't have many weapons to use to fire. Even the focused arc emitters minimum range 10. And look at the tracking, 0%. Makes it hard. Artillery's tracking 0%. So if you see your enemy's got this type of build, they're highly vulnerable to Corvettes and smaller ships. I think we've already had one retreat. We'll look at 71.5k. Maybe not. There we go. One's retreated now. One's destroyed. 19. We've lost 7 Corvettes. Another one's retreated then. Another one retreated. So you can just see the shields are dropping from the flak. You can see the hull dropping from the disruptors. Still only 7 Corvettes. They've lost 3 battleships. Numerous retreated. You can see here the battle is really edging one way now. 8 Corvettes. 4 battleships destroyed, 5. So even though we could probably tell this battle would be won from the get-go, this is more a demonstration. I wanted actually people to see how effective Corvettes are, particularly when you combine them. Now, what I want you guys to imagine you've got 2 or 3 of these fleets of Corvettes, and then you've got 3 or 4 fleets of battleships back here, and then you've got some cruiser fleets. Maybe they're firing long-range torpedoes, and this guy's got all of battleships and cruisers back here. He's got no smaller ships, so most of his ships are pounding away on these Corvettes. A lot of his weapons will be missing because of the high evasion. All the alpha shots are focused on the Corvettes, while your alpha shots here are focused on his capital ships, pounding them away. So your Corvettes are just wreaking havoc. Plus they're intercepting any strike craft, they're intercepting any missiles that are being fired, some of the torpedoes being fired that are being aimed at your capital ships. So this is where the screening ships, particularly Corvettes, are extremely effective. As you can see here, the battle is really going one direction now. They've lost 8 battleships. Wow. Actually killing quite a lot now. And I've seen this play out in much bigger battles, just how effective it is. There's one battle in that's the retreated fleet now. So he lost 10 battleships, and we lost 11 Corvettes. Like in a multiplayer game I was playing against a friend of mine, I was using 2 or 3 Corvette fleets like this, and he did have a lot of missile ships, actually a lot of missile cruisers and battleships and things like that, torpedoes. And I think he outnumbered me. We're talking millions of fleet power here. He had like I think something like 8 million to my 4 million, something like that. And I creamed him. I did have a strong defense station as well, but I absolutely creamed him. It was mostly due to the Corvettes. It was just really good combat tactics. So you can fight 2-to-1 odds if you've got these fleets, and your enemy fleets have gone heavy on, say, strike craft, missiles. You're negating a lot of their advantages, a lot of their firepower, while keeping a lot of your strengths in play. Okay, so obviously they've beaten the battleships quite easily. That's a huge alloy efficiency. So we'll test out the next battle. Okay, for this battle, we've got our same Corvette fleet, a mix of Flak and PD Disruptor Corvettes. And for this fleet, we've got our carrier battleships. So this should be a lot more even fight. You've got your strike craft, which should make good work of the Corvettes. They do have Flak, so that should negate some of the strike craft. Have a lot of missiles as well, whirlwind missiles and marauder missiles, although they do have point defenses, so we'll see how effective all of this is. They've got focused arc emitters, and they've got point defense Flak, mix of armor, shields, afterburners, and carrier combat computers. So let's see how this fight unfolds. We'll see how the PD and Flak go versus the strike craft and missiles. These fleets are all the same fleet size as well. It's 160 versus 160. So you can see we are losing more Corvettes initially. But the Flak and PD seem to be working well. Only lost 10. They've lost 1 battleship. Still I've lost 13. Looks like they've lost a retreated battleship as well. Maybe 2 or 3 now. Okay, lost 3 battleships. Let's just have a look at some of this damage output. So the small disruptors, obviously, advanced strike craft. Yeah, they are doing some damage. Whirlwind missiles. Marauder missiles are not doing much. Yeah. Flak artillery, look at that. 6,932 to shields. Guardian point defense, 507. Starting to trend a similar way now. So they are losing a few more Corvettes than the last battle, but the result is going to be the same by the look of it. Very similar anyway. So I found that surprising. I thought we'd lose a lot more Corvettes. Just shows you how effective the Flak and PD is in those kind of numbers. Even though they had about 40 strike craft, 40 marauder missiles and 40 whirlwind missiles. So that was that's over 120 targets, 120 lots of missiles and strike craft in that fleet. Yet they prevailed quite easily. How much did we lose in the end? So they lost 12 battleships, even worse than the artillery battleships. But we did lose 23 Corvettes. See, that would be almost a direct counter in terms of battleships versus the Corvettes. But because it's a mix of Flak and PD, it makes this fleet very hard to beat. Very, very hard. So you're wondering, you wonder how, say, 10 fleets of the Corvettes would go against 10 fleets of a mix of different types of battleships and cruisers. That'd be quite interesting, actually. All right, let's try some cruisers now, because cruisers will have more numbers in a similar size fleet. We'll see how that goes. Okay, we have our same disruptor fleet of Flak and PD Disruptor Corvettes, and we have our carrier cruisers. So they've got strike craft, double point defense, double whirlwind missiles, double marauder missiles, mix of armor, a little bit of shields, afterburners. So we'll see if the carrier combat or carrier cruisers are better because they're faster. Maybe they can stay away from the Corvettes a bit better. 286 versus 312. So Corvettes should chase them down, but it might give them more time to kill more of these guys before they can get obliterated themselves. Plus there's 40 of them, so we'll see how it goes.
Engaging enemy fleet.
All the point defenses and flak firing. A few Corvettes being destroyed. They're already losing a cruiser. So we've lost 3 cruisers, 4 cruisers, 5. It's not looking good. Nice coffee. Perhaps even more one-sided than the last. We've only lost 7 Corvettes. Jeez. Wow. Probably going to be about the same, maybe 50% losses or more. 19. 18. 7. Okay, that's the retreated fleet. So we got down to 17. So once again, more than 50% losses in that fleet, and we suffered hardly any. So that was even worse. So even using carriers and missiles against this type of fleet, it just doesn't work because they've got the flak and point defense and the numbers, and then they've got the disruptors to go through the shields and armor. Yeah, it's very, very effective. All right, we're going to have to change it up. We're going to need more smaller weapons to counter this type of fleets. Okay, this time around, we've got our Disruptor cruisers. Now, these guys should be very effective at countering the Corvettes. Now, they should obliterate these guys, really. So this is one of the few designs I would use against this fleet. If you come against mass smaller ships, this is one of the builds that you'd probably want to spec into. Or have, maybe if you're playing PvP, you might want to have a couple of your cruiser fleets spec'd like this. I know the Disruptors is a popular one in the PvP games. So you might have at least a few fleets spec like this, even if you're going heavy in torpedoes and missiles and all that other stuff, just to counter the threat of these guys. And it'll also be very good at countering destroyers as well. So I expect this will be heavily in favour of the cruisers. Could be wrong though, but let's see how it plays out. This build should be the direct counter to the Corvettes. I'll be surprised if it's not. Basically a disruptor battle. Yeah, look at the losses they're taking already. We're down to 20 Corvettes. They've lost a cruiser. Yeah, we're down 40. Yeah, they're not taking many losses at all. So if you come against this type of fleets, this is what you sort of need to prepare. Yeah, obliterated. There you go. Bang. How many did we lose? So we lost 2 cruisers, and what's that? That's what's that? 81. 81. So we lost nearly 50%. 79 Corvettes in that quick space of time. So that's what you need to do if you want to counter the Corvettes. But what I do is I don't use Corvettes just by themselves. I have Corvettes leading my fleet of, if I've got a dozen fleets late game, probably more, I might have 3 Corvette fleets in there like this, charging in front of my fleet. And my battleship fleet would be, if this is what the enemy's got and they're charging ahead with their cruisers, all my battleships and torpedo cruiser fleets and things like that, strike craft, are going to be focused on that, or the few cruiser fleets that's sending like that. So this fleet would get absolutely pounded by my entire fleet first up. So they may not stick around very long. They may be obliterated in the first few seconds from the alpha shot as well. A lot easier to target cruisers in terms of their evasion than it is to target a fleet of multiple fleets of Corvettes. So that's the other thing you need to think of, that these cruisers will be easily targeted by the enemy's capital ships if you're trying to directly oppose Corvettes. So destroyers may be a better option for that. But okay, let's look at a few more cruiser designs. Okay, for this fight we've got our Devastator torpedoes, and we've also got a lot of disruptors. So this fleet may also be pretty good at countering these guys. It just depends if they've got enough firepower, also having these torpedo slots. But they are very fast. They're going to close into torpedo range very quickly and disruptor range very quickly. So I also think this design should be pretty good against this type of fleet. So this should be good against small ships and larger ships because you've got the torpedoes as well. So let's see if we can get through this Corvette screen of this design.
Engaging enemy fleet.
A lot of Corvettes going down again. They are losing a few cruisers, a few have retreated. But we're losing quite a lot of Corvettes once again. They've lost 4 cruisers now. So they are taking more losses. 5, 6, 7, 8. It's pretty 9, a pretty even battle. Probably the cruisers a bit in front now. Yeah. 10 cruisers down. Okay, and the Corvettes retreated. So still very effective, although they suffered a lot more losses. How many did we actually kill? Killed quite a few, so that's what, 67 left. So yeah, well over 50%. So that was pretty good. Lots of small disruptors and the torpedoes. So the torpedoes will still do damage against the Corvettes, but they're not doing the multiplicative damage. So you're not getting that bonus damage, but they'll still do a fair bit of damage against Corvettes, the ones that actually hit, because you've got, what's the tracking on them? Only 10%, accuracy 100%. So yeah, it'd be quite hard to hit the actual Corvettes. Okay, so seeing that pretty much ship designs with other disruptors are very good against Corvettes, which is, we knew that. So that's it's just good to see the actual battles plan out and see how it actually unfolds with some of the ship designs that we can focus on with the bigger ships. All right, next battle. Okay, for this fight we've got our energy torpedoes and lots of missiles. So I don't expect this build to do as well because it is a more long range build, and a lot of the missiles will get intercepted by the point defenses. So we'll see how this goes.
Engaging enemy fleet.
The cruisers are trying to kite them away, but they won't be fast enough. And nothing's getting through so far. Maybe one retreated. And where are these guys flying to now? Oh, they're chasing one cruiser, are they? These combat computers. They're doing a good job of kiting around at the moment, actually. They're just not actually doing much damage because they can't get through the point defenses. And now they're starting to take losses, which is what we expected. But it is interesting to see the kiting mechanics and combat computers not working effectively. Let's speed this up because I think we know the result. So they've only lost one Corvette so far. Okay, and what did we lose? About 20, was it 26 or 27? 26 cruisers were destroyed, so that's quite a loss. And we lost one Corvette. Wow, that is the most one-sided battle I've ever seen. So, yeah, so don't use missiles and energy torpedoes against Corvettes with disruptors. Yeah, so that's, if you see an enemy with lots of energy torpedoes and missiles, well, then this fleet may be extremely good at countering them. Or multiples of these fleets. Very good. All right, we'll try something else. Okay, one last cruiser design. This is our artillery cruiser. Double artillery, double plasma. So the plasma should be a bit more effective at targeting the Corvettes once they get to close range. The artillery, not so much. And we will see how, and it is a line combat computer too, so for medium range, so the plasma should come into play. But I don't expect these to win. I would be surprised if that happens. But a lot of the flak and point defense is not that useful here. We'll do some damage, but there's no missiles or strike craft to intercept. And 4 Corvettes down straight away. Okay, 10. The plasma is doing some damage there. Five battleships. I've lost quite a few Corvettes already. But they are getting whittled away. You can just see the firepower discrepancy when you just have artillery and plasma between the fleets. Let's look at some of the damage. So the phase disruptor is just doing so much damage. And yeah, plasma's only doing 4,000. Look at that Guardian point defense damage to armor. Over 20,000 damage. So don't neglect to your point defenses. They can do a lot of damage still. So you're 200% efficient. I actually quite like using the flak and point defense level 1 in your early Corvettes if you haven't actually got any decent weapons. That's not a bad option. So yeah, we lost 31 Corvettes, but they lost 22 cruisers. So as expected, so the really only counter we've seen so far is other Disruptor class ships using disruptors, and that's about the only possible counter you can do to this fleet. But as I said, in a large battle, if you've got battleships and cruisers back here pounding away, any of those cruiser fleets that come in are going to get hammered, and even destroyer fleets coming in are going to get hammered, because the torpedoes will still do twice the damage on those destroyers, and they'll still have a harder time targeting the Corvettes. Although one-on-one fleet, which we'll do next, we have a destroyer fleet with disruptors, which they should be able to beat this. One-on-one, yeah, they'll most likely win, but in a combined fleet situation, because your battleships and cruisers are firing at their ships, while they're firing at your Corvettes with a higher evasion, so normally the higher evasion tends to win. Okay, for this fight we've got 80 Disruptor destroyers, 1 medium, small weapons, a mix of shields and armor this time, double afterburners, using picket combat computers, standard everything else versus our fleet we've been using the whole time. Our Corvettes with disruptors, flak and point defense. So we'll see how this battle turns out. I expect the destroyers should win, but you never know.
Engaging enemy fleet.
Yeah, we've lost 20. Then we lost 5, 6, down 50, down 60. It's a slaughter. Bang. So, and what I'd like to point out too, you saw that this fleet was less than, well, at least half the firepower of the other fleet, of the Corvette fleet. Firepower ratings don't really tend to come into it much. So, if you're seeing the enemy use lots of Corvettes, these are disruptors. This is what you've got to try and do to counter them. Have fleets of screening ships. If you're not going to use screening ships in the late game, and people are going to use Corvettes against you, and then there may even be things like coming in behind the Corvettes might be fleets of cloaked frigates with torpedoes that you don't see. So yeah, if you don't use screening ships, it's at your peril. Plus, the AI, even in the late game, tends to love to have mixed fleets, lots of Corvettes, destroyers, and smaller fleets along with their cruisers and battleships. You see it all the time. So these designs, having a number of Corvette fleets with your larger fleets, tends to work a lot better in PvE as well. So against the AI fleets, they just get decimated. With these, you take casualties with your Corvettes, but you're not losing your cruisers and battleships, and they're so fast to replace, particularly when you've got mega shipyards and things like that in the later games. So yeah, I use this all the time with my larger fleets. Against the Crises, not so much, because they've got millions and millions of fleet power, and you probably don't want to spend time building hundreds of Corvettes all the time. So I don't tend to use them against those guys, but against the AI and against other human opponents, it can be a real problem. And then plus when you're using 160 Corvettes, they're really quick at taking enemy systems as well. Although, just be careful using them against heavily defended star bases, because there are only disruptors. Disruptors are not so effective against star bases. If you're going up against a star base, you want to send a couple of bigger fleets with them. But yeah, they're very fast, can quickly run around the map, take systems as well. Good at responding to pirates as well. So yeah, very, very effective, this ship design, particularly when you use them in large scale battles. Have 2 or 3 of these fleets in there. Just give it a try, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed with the results. Alright, that's it for this video. If you like this video, hit that like button for me, and I will see you guys next time for the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.